Marcus never imagined his life would become a battlefield before he even truly settled into happiness. But the moment he stepped into Lily's world, he realized there was a war that had been raging long before him. A war with a ghost named Jane. Jane wasn't just an ex-wife. She was a storm that had swept through their lives years ago and refused to leave. A woman who never worked, yet demanded the world, who launched one failed business after another, and then poured all her obsession into a small clothes shop that barely survived. Marcus had heard stories, whispered resentments, sharp words exchanged behind closed doors, silent battles fought over custody, money, and respect. He met Lily at a time when John, her husband and Jane's ex, was barely holding his own together. John, a good man worn down by a lifetime of battles with Jane, now lived between fragmented homes and fractured relationships. And Marcus, stepping cautiously into this fragile world, quickly learned that peace was a rare luxury. Jane expected John to carry the burden of their past, washing, ironing, cleaning, paying for everything, as if their marriage had never ended. She demanded loyalty from a man who had already given too much. And when John tried to move forward, to build a life with Lily and Marcus, Jane's fury erupted like wildfire. Marcus saw it all firsthand. The whispered accusations, the subtle digs, the cold stares that cut deeper than any words. Jane referred to Lily as that short, fat thing. A cruelty Marcus knew was meant to sting, but he refused to let it break him. He watched how Jane poisoned the children's minds against Lily, filling their heads with doubt and suspicion. The daughter who once awaited her father's affection now flinched, waiting for him to be disappointed. Yet, amid the chaos, Marcus found strength, a quiet resolve to protect the fragile family they were building. He understood that love wasn't just about passion or hope. Sometimes it was about endurance and strategy, about standing firm when the storm threatened to tear everything apart. He remembered the moment John told Jane to her face about the 40,000 pounds she tried to pocket from the house sale. A sum meant for the kids, now lost in her greed. The sharpness in John's voice, the disbelief in Jane's eyes. That was the line Marcus swore he would never let her cross again. And then came the hardest battle of all. Marcus's own fight with illness. Cancer that robbed him of strength, but never his will. Through the pain and fear, he found clarity. This wasn't just about surviving Jane's spite. It was about claiming his own happiness, no matter the cost. The day of the daughter's wedding arrived like a beacon. Marcus stepped into the room, dressed sharp and confident, a stark contrast to Jane's weary, disheveled figure. The moment their eyes met, he saw the defeat lurking behind her forced smile. When Jane greeted him with that biting, healthy remark, a thinly veiled insult wrapped in a compliment, Marcus felt the full weight of years of battles behind that word. It was more than spite. It was victory. But it was also catharsis. For Marcus, this was only the beginning. The real war was far from over. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains of the small house Marcus now called home. It was modest, a far cry from the sprawling mansion Jane had once flaunted, but it held something far more valuable: peace. Fragile but real. Marcus watched Lily in the kitchen, her movements graceful but tired. The years of conflict, the poison Jane spread, had left marks on all of them. The kids were no longer little. They carried scars that ran deep, invisible to most, but painfully clear to those who loved them. Jane's shadow was never far. There were whispered phone calls when Marcus wasn't home, secret texts between Jane and the children, subtle barbs disguised as motherly concern. "Your father doesn't care," she'd say. "He's moved on. You're all alone." And for a moment, the words took root, creating fissures in hearts already fragile. Marcus hated that Jane could hurt them from a distance, wielding manipulation like a weapon. But he hated even more the way it sometimes made him question himself. Was he doing enough? Was he strong enough to shield his family? He remembered the nights lying awake, the heaviness pressing down like a weight on his chest, the anger at Jane's endless games, the guilt for not being able to fix everything. But most of all, the fierce love for Lily. a love that fueled his determination to fight every day. Lily caught his gaze, offering a tired smile that said more than words ever could. They were in this together, and together they would endure. The day's errands were a minefield. Jane's meddling extended to every detail. School schedules changed without notice, invitations to events mysteriously lost, favors called in and then denied. Each act designed to fracture the fragile bonds Marcus and Lily had built. But Marcus had learned to anticipate the moves. He kept detailed records, letters, and messages. He documented every interaction, not for revenge, but for protection, for proof when the inevitable battle for custody or fairness arose. One afternoon, Marcus sat down with the children. His son, Cole, was older now, a stubborn mix of teenage defiance and cautious hope. His daughter, Emma, was quieter, more reflective, but no less hurt by the past. "I know it's been hard," Marcus began gently, "but you're not alone. We're a team, all of us, and no matter what Jane says or does, she can't change that." Cole's eyes narrowed. "It feels like she's winning sometimes." "That's why we have to be stronger," Marcus said. "Not just for ourselves, but for each other." That night, after the kids were asleep, Marcus and Lily talked long into the early hours. They discussed plans, fears, dreams. Marcus shared his fears about Jane's relentless attacks and how much it wore on him. Lily took his hand. "We'll get through this, one day at a time. And when it's over, we'll build something better. For us, for them." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight in his chest ease just a little. Outside, the world continued spinning, indifferent to their battles. But inside that small house, a quiet war was being fought, and Marcus was determined to be the last man standing. Jane's presence was like a dark cloud that never quite lifted. The small victories Marcus and Lily had fought for were constantly threatened by her cunning moves. She wasn't just content with stirring trouble. She wanted control, dominance, to remind everyone that she still held power. Marcus noticed the subtle changes almost immediately. Invitations to school events were never forwarded to him. Birthday parties for the children were planned without his knowledge. Important decisions were made in hushed tones, excluding him from his children's lives. One afternoon, Marcus received a call from Emma's school counselor. His stomach tightened as he listened to the concerned voice explain Emma's sudden withdrawal and reluctance to attend classes. "It's like she's carrying a burden no child should have to bear," the counselor said softly. "There's a lot going on at home, and it's affecting her." Marcus hung up, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. He knew Jane's manipulations were taking their toll, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. That evening, Marcus sat with Emma at the kitchen table, her eyes downcast. "Hey, Pumpkin," he said gently. "What's on your mind?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Mom says Dad doesn't care about me anymore, that I'm just a problem." Marcus felt a surge of anger and sadness. He pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. "That's not true. I love you more than anything in this world, and I'll always fight for you." Lily joined them, her presence a calming anchor. Together, they promised Emma she was never alone. But Marcus knew words alone weren't enough. The next day, he confronted Jane. In a tense conversation, he laid out the facts, the missing invitations, the broken communication, and the emotional damage. Jane's face twisted with feigned innocence and subtle defiance. "I'm just protecting my children," she said coldly. "You've forgotten what it means to be a father." Marcus didn't back down. Being a father means being present, not sidelining your kids for your own vendettas. That night, Marcus and Lily planned their next move. They would document every slight, every manipulation. They would fight with law, love, and unbreakable resolve. Their bond, tested by fire, grew stronger. Every challenge pushed them closer together, turning their love into an unshakable fortress. The battle was far from over. Days turned into weeks, and Jane's relentless campaign to control Marcus's world only grew fiercer. She no longer hid behind subtle manipulations. She was openly trying to undermine every step Marcus and Lily took toward building their family's future. Marcus could feel the pressure mounting like heat from a rising fire. Every phone call seemed strained, Every visit to the children fraught with tension. Jane's whispered poison was spreading, threatening to fracture the fragile peace. But Marcus refused to let that happen. One evening, after a particularly draining day filled with missed messages, last-minute cancellations, and quiet tears from Emma, Marcus sat down with Lily in the dim light of their living room. "We need a plan," he said, voice steady but tired. Lily nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. "We're not just going to survive this, we're going to fight back." Together, they began to build their arsenal. Marcus started compiling detailed logs of Jane's behavior, missed school events, refusal to communicate, and emotional blackmail. Every call, every text, every overheard comment was carefully documented. Lily, meanwhile, worked on strengthening their emotional bond with the children. She organized family activities, created safe spaces for honest conversations, and worked tirelessly to counteract the negativity Jane injected into their lives. The turning point came unexpectedly. At a family gathering, Jane attempted to stir trouble, making snide remarks and casting doubt on Marcus's role as a father. But this time, Marcus didn't flinch. With calm authority, he confronted her in front of everyone. "Your games don't work anymore, Jane. We're done letting you control the narrative." The room fell silent, Jane's face flushed with fury and humiliation. That moment marked a shift. The subtle power Jane once held was slipping away. Behind closed doors, Marcus and Lily strategized their next move, a bold step to reclaim their family's peace and dignity. This was more than survival. This was the beginning of their victory. Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the city night leaking through the window. Before him lay a folder, thick with papers, texts, emails, photographs, a meticulous record of Jane's manipulations, broken promises, and petty cruelties. For years, he had borne the brunt of her spite silently, trying to shield Lily and the kids from the storm. But silence was no longer an option. This dossier was not just a collection of grievances. It was a weapon, a testament to years of emotional warfare. Lily entered quietly, her presence steady and reassuring. "It's time," she said softly. Marcus looked up, eyes heavy but resolute. "We've documented everything. Now we make our move." The plan was simple but bold. Confront Jane legally, reclaim control, and protect their family once and for all. But Marcus knew it wouldn't be easy. Jane was cunning, and the battlefield was as much emotional as it was legal. They began with a carefully worded letter from their lawyer, laying out the evidence and demanding a cease to Jane's interference. It was a warning shot, meant to shake Jane's fragile sense of control. The response was predictable: denial, gaslighting, and a barrage of excuses. But Marcus and Lily stood firm, refusing to be drawn into her games. Meanwhile, at home, Marcus worked to rebuild the trust frayed by years of conflict. He spent late nights helping Cole with homework, listening to Emma's worries, and simply being present in ways Jane had tried to prevent. One evening, after tucking the kids into bed, Marcus and Lily sat on the couch, the weight of the battle pressing down but their bond stronger than ever. "We're fighting for more than just peace," Lily said. "We're fighting for the future. For them." Marcus nodded. "And this time we're going to win." But victory wouldn't come without cost. The emotional toll was immense, the nights restless with worry and the days filled with tense encounters. Jane, sensing the walls closing in, retaliated with veiled threats and public accusations, hoping to undermine Marcus's reputation. Yet, with each attack, Marcus grew stronger, more determined to protect his family and to finally silence the past that haunted them. The reckoning had begun. The tension in the air was almost tangible as Marcus stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker through the rain. Each drop felt like a countdown, time running out on Jane's hold over their lives. The legal battle was in full swing now. Marcus had presented the evidence. Jane had been forced to respond. But instead of backing down, she had doubled down, lashing out in ways both overt and insidious. She spread rumors among mutual acquaintances, trying to paint Marcus as the villain, the disruptor of a family that, in her twisted version, still belonged to her. Invitations to family events were rescinded, social media posts twisted, and behind closed doors, she whispered poison in ears, willing to listen. Marcus and Lily felt the sting, but refused to be derailed. One evening, after a long day of court appearances and meetings with lawyers, Marcus returned home to find Lily in tears. She had just spoken to Emma, who was struggling with the weight of the conflict, feeling caught between the parents she loved. Marcus held Lily tightly, the weight of the fight pressing down on them both. "We can't let her win," he whispered. "Not for them. Not for us." The next day, Marcus made a decision, a bold move that would change everything. He called a family meeting, inviting Jane under the pretense of a truce. When she arrived, her face was guarded, wary but curious. Marcus laid everything on the table, the evidence, the hurt, the damage done. He spoke not with anger, but with a fierce clarity that left no room for denial. "This isn't just about money or control," Marcus said. "It's about respect, about what family truly means." Jane's defenses cracked. For the first time, she seemed vulnerable, the mask slipping to reveal the woman beneath, scared, desperate, and lost. But Marcus didn't soften. "We can move forward, but only if you're willing to change, to respect boundaries, to put the kids first." Silence hung heavy. Jane looked around, the weight of years pressing down on her. Slowly she nodded, not a full surrender, but a beginning. As she left that night, Marcus felt a cautious hope. The battle was far from over, but the tides were shifting. Back inside, Lily smiled through tears. "Maybe this is the start of something new." Marcus reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll build it. Together." The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the living room where Marcus sat, staring at the phone in his hand. The message from Jane was simple, almost timid, a fragile attempt at rebuilding bridges. But Marcus knew better than to let his guard down so easily. Months of war had worn on all of them. Jane's grudges had left scars not just on paper, but on hearts. Lily had become the steady anchor, the light in the storm, but Marcus felt the weight of every fractured relationship keenly. He looked up as Lily entered, her eyes calm but searching. "We can't just pretend everything is okay," Marcus said quietly. "She's trying, but can we really trust it?" Lily sat beside him. "Trust has to be rebuilt slowly, but sometimes the first step is just showing up." Their son Cole laughed from the hallway, a sound that was both a balm and a reminder of why they fought. Later that evening, Marcus agreed to meet Jane at a neutral cafe, a place away from old wounds and familiar battlegrounds. The air was thick with unspoken words and memories too heavy to carry. Jane arrived, looking older, more tired but sincere. They talked, cautiously, honestly. She spoke of regrets, of battles lost to pride, and of a desire to be part of her children's lives without the bitterness that had defined so many years. Marcus listened, his heart torn between hope and doubt. He knew the path ahead would be long, filled with trials, but perhaps this was the crossroads, where healing could begin or everything could fall apart again. As they parted, Jane handed him a small wrapped gift. Inside was a simple photo album, snapshots of moments long past, memories of a family before the fractures. Marcus smiled faintly, a rare softness breaking through. Back at home, he shared the moment with Lily. "This isn't over," he said, "but maybe it's a new chapter." Lily nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Outside, the city lights flickered, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, there was always a glimmer of dawn. The morning sun spilled gently through the curtains, casting warm light on the quiet house Marcus and Lily now called home. The air was still, heavy with the promise of endings and beginnings. Months had passed since that fragile meeting with Jane, since the tentative truce was extended across cracked lines of trust. The wounds from years of betrayal and pain still ached, but there was something new, the possibility of healing. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, a worn photo album open before him, the one Jane had given him. Each picture told a story, birthdays, holidays, laughter captured in frozen moments, memories of a family whole and hopeful. He traced a finger over an old photograph of a younger Jane, smiling genuinely, A glimpse of the woman before bitterness took hold. Lily entered quietly, her presence a steady comfort. "You've been quiet," she said softly. Marcus looked up, eyes shimmering. "It's strange to feel hopeful after so much hurt." Lily smiled, sitting beside him. "Hope is the first step toward peace." The day was filled with calls and messages, tentative, cautious attempts by Jane to reconnect, to be part of their lives without control or manipulation. Marcus responded carefully, setting boundaries firm but fair. He knew forgiveness wasn't a gift given lightly. It was earned, moment by moment, through honesty and respect. That evening, the family gathered. Cole laughed easily. Emma's eyes sparkled with newfound trust. Jane was there, not as a conqueror, but as a visitor willing to listen, to learn, to change. It wasn't perfect. Old wounds surfaced, voices raised in frustration and pain. But beneath it all was a shared commitment to try, to rebuild a family fractured but not broken. Later, as the house settled into calm, Marcus and Lily sat together, hands entwined. "We fought so hard to get here," Marcus said, voice low but steady. "Maybe this is what victory feels like." Lily leaned in, her smile soft and certain. Not victory over someone else, victory over the past. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware of the small battles won and lost within these walls. Marcus closed the album gently, a quiet resolve in his heart. The war had been long, the cost high, but the future, their future, was theirs to shape. And this time, it would be different. Thank you for joining Marcus's journey. Sometimes the fiercest battles lead to the most fragile peace, and that peace is the greatest victory of all.